If there are some targeted percentages in your financials, if you have gross revenue, what percentage should labor be, what percentage advertising?
I'll tell you the biggest problem that I see.
Our first goal was to get enough money to pay the mortgage and eat food.
I would love to at some point like literally interview everyone and get them to submit their financials so we can see averages, but those would be called like benchmarks. They're not targets. I'll tell you the biggest problem that I see in working with people is that they don't put themselves on a salary. So we talked about on day one having your oxygen salary, like paying everyone in the business what they're worth. And so when we talk about net profit, a lot of people say, I made 50 grand this year. It's like, well, you didn't pay yourself a salary, and if you got sick or passed away or something, you would have to replace that person. You might have to pay 70 grand to replace them. So you lost 20 and made zero profit. So the first thing is, are you paying yourself a salary? And then is there any net profit after? So if you look at, hey, if I'm managing 10 teachers and what would be the equivalent out in the world? Like, let's say if you're working at some sort of fast food chain and you got 10 staff, well, you might be on, depending what your country is and where you're from, let's say the salary is 50 grand for a basic general manager position. Well, you should be at least aiming for a market rate. There's your salary. And then I think that beyond that, it's kind of looking at, Nick's talk about, hey, what's the dream life and the dream salary and working towards that. But you want to have the next target, so you got your oxygen salary. The next target is your emergency fund. Your life is so much better if you've got 2 to 3 months expenses set aside. So that's your next target, and then it's net profit. And so all the other kind of benchmarks are going to be radically different. So let's say my building was about 100 grand a year. So my rent is going to be radically different to Alistair's, where he's got
15 grand a year.
Yeah, so huge difference. Our teacher expenses was 38%, and that's going to be who's above 38% in teacher costs. Cool. Who's below 38%? Cool. So that wasn't really helpful, was it? No. So the main thing is what I'm saying is there's 3 elements. Start with what is my oxygen salary to sort, what is my emergency fund, and then what is a good healthy net profit target, and I would just start to try and move that up. So, hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this clip, it's from our latest Builder Music School conference, and if you would like access to all the replays from that conference, full videos, uninterrupted, then you can click a link somewhere around this video, and you can go check out all those recordings with the speakers from all around the world. You won't regret it. Every single one of those talks is going to help you run a more successful business, make you a whole lot more money, make your life a lot easier, and keep you up with the trends that are working right now in the music teaching industry. But for now, back to the video, but the link will be somewhere around here. So find it, click it, go check it out. You won't regret it. See what it is after you take out your salary. Maybe it's 0, maybe it's negative 5%. See if you can get it to 5%, and then next year 10%, and start to aim for, in a lot of small businesses, they target 10 to 20%, which seems quite low, but they'll be paying themselves a decent salary. And every industry is different. So it's a bit of a waffly answer, but did you find something helpful in there?
Yeah. If I could just add a couple of things to that, I think something to take into consideration is stage of life and season that you're in as well. And so my example for that is when we first started, like what Johnny said, our first goal was to get enough money to pay the mortgage and eat food. And buy clothes and all that sort of thing, pay the power so we don't freeze to death. So that was a good goal, and so we got there. Basically, from then, because I didn't want to be doing teaching, I knew I wanted to step out of the teaching. We then prioritized all extra profit into paying for more staff, so that I could redeem my time. So I basically paid people to take stuff off my plate so that I didn't have to do it and I could get my time back. So for the first 4 years, 18, 19, 20, yeah, so I was for the first 3 years, we didn't really make much profit. I still ate, which was great. It was terrible going to the bank and trying to get finance and stuff, because they're like, you're not making any money. I'm like, well, I am, but anyway. But then the last 3 years have been fantastic, because as we've continued to grow, that profit that I was investing in more staff is now just pure profit now. So depending on where you're at, what your goal is, what's the aim of what you're doing, that might change some of those numbers as well.
One last thing, just a great resource for us was a book called Scaling Up. I think it's Mastering the Rockefeller Habits 2.0 or something like that. And it's what was that?
Vern Harnish?
Yeah, Vern Harnish. Yep. And he has this idea that, like, sort of what Alistair is saying is, as you grow, you're going to hit this percentage where you're going to be like, oh, okay, I feel great about that. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 15%. And then what you start doing is you start looking and going, well, if I wanted to scale up again, can I reallocate some of this percentage to go into this thing? And so then those percentages are going to fluctuate again. And so just be willing to live in sort of that weird gray area where it's like, maybe like we reevaluate ours every year, where we look and we're like, okay, we were 40% this year in labor. Well, maybe we want to be 38%. And we're just like constantly adjusting and paying attention to those metrics, but like starting with a goal target in mind and then go, okay, so what is it going to take us for us to get there? And then be, willing to go, well, the next year, maybe I can get it down to 39 or 38, or maybe I need to adjust it accordingly. Yeah.
Final point. For those of you that have ticked off those levels we've just talked about, I'll give you like the next level, which is really cool to think about, is you allocate a percentage of your profit each month or quarter or year, however you want to do it, and you put it into a separate bank account and call it, so for us it's the BAM growth account, so your school growth account, and that money you have to spend on growth. Because otherwise you're sometimes just like waiting for ideas, or it's an undisciplined pursuit of growth. But if you actually have set aside and said, okay, well, let's say we make 20% profit. Well, we want to take 12% of that, and we want to put 8% into growth. And so every month you're dragging that into an account, and so you're actively trying to grow the business. And so for more advanced businesses and becoming a CEO, your number one job is, they'll call it capital allocation. So capital is the money. Your job is to make sure your capital is allocated properly, which includes, hey, am I paying my taxes? Am I paying the team well? Am I making sure the cash flow is working? And am I actually taking money and growing it in the right places to grow the business? So that's a good thing to just write down in your journal, like, I am a capital allocator. Sounds very fancy for a small business owner, but where you put the money is important for progress and profit. If you enjoyed that clip and you want to see the full presentation as well as all the other talks from our Builder Music School conference, click the link around this video and you can get access to all of those recordings right now.